Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Today we are going to have another mythology reading, and this time we are going to read about Maya and Aztec mythology. We already read specifically about one of them, which was Aztec. From a small book that I have bought back in Scotland, but this time we are going to read from the Big Golden Book, and hopefully we can learn a few more things. Anyway, let's just start. And the sun belongs to one, and the moon to the other, the hero twins. Hun Hunahpu and Wukub Hunahpu were the twin sons of the divine matchmaker Xpiakok, and the midwife goddess Xmukane. Hun Hunahpu's wife was a deity called, oh my gosh, what is with these names? Starting with an X and then a consonant right after? Like seriously, how am I supposed to read that? Was a deity called Xbaquiyalo, and together they had twins, Hun Choven and Hun Bats. The twins, boisterous, ball-playing, attract the ire of the Lord of Xibalba, a deadly underworld of disease and decay. The lords lured the twins to the underworld to play the ball game against them. Before the game could take place, however, the twins were subjected to a series of challenges. When they failed, they were sacrificed and buried beneath the ball court in the underworld. Hunahpu was decapitated, and his head hung from a calabash tree as a warning to those who might cross them. Even after death, he retained his potency. His spittle dripped into the hand of a moon goddess, Squeak, and impregnated her. Why is it always about, like, the droplet? Someone is decapitated, something else is cut, and then the droplets impregnate or create other beings, gods, etc. Why? Anyway, Squeak and impregnated her. Squeak, fleeing her angry father in the underworld, sought refuge with Hun Hunahpu's mother on earth. Xmukane accepted her into her household. Squeak gave birth to Hunahpu, another Hunahpu, and Xbalanque, who grew up to be the two hero twins. But don't we have two twins? Anyway, young Cunning. The hero twins' older half-brothers, Hun Choven and Hun Bat, worried that the new arrivals would overshadow them and tried to kill them. They forced Hunahpu and Xbalanque to hunt for them, but the twins used the slight to get the better of them. They told Hun Choven and Hun Bats that some birds they had shot were caught in high branches and had not fallen down. When Hun Chauven and Hun Bats climbed to get them, the tree grew so tall that they were unable to descend. Marooned there, they turned into monkeys, but were so embarrassed by their new appearance that they ran away from home. This doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So, didn't we just read that the first twins were killed by the gods of the underworld? But now they are supposedly fighting with the second set of twins? I don't know. I'm just here to read, right? Anyway, Taming Unruly Gods. The storm god, Huracan, like hurricane? Wow. Asked the hero twins to defeat the boastful macaw god Vukub Kakwix, who claimed that his metal nose was the moon and his shiny nest the sun. The two hero twins approached him while he was feeding in the tree and shot him with the blowgun. He got away, so the two twins turned to trickery. They persuaded two elderly gods, Great White Peccary and Great White Coati, to approach Vukub Kakwix, posing as healers. The macaw god accepted their help, but they pulled out his ornaments and replaced his eyes with corn kernels. Robbed of his splendor, he perished. My gosh, this is like so dark. What is happening? I don't remember reading things like that. Huracan then requested that the hero twins dispatch Vukub Kakwix's equally boastful son, Zipacna, a demon crocodile monster, and Cabracan, the earthquake god. Zipacna had earlier killed the 400 boys, who were the gods of alcohol. Hunaphu and Xbalanque made a fake crab out of flowers and a rock and placed it in a narrow space beneath an overhanging mountain. Zipacana crawled into the crevice. When he tried to grab it, the twins brought the mountain down on him, turning him into a stone. Zipacna's brother, Cabracan, the earthquake god, prided himself on bringing down the mountains. The hero twins told him that they knew of a perpetually growing mountain. Cabracan demanded to be shown it so he could destroy it. As he followed the two twins, the hero twins, he grew hungry. They fed him a roasted bird they had enchanted. When he ate it, he grew weak, and the hero twins tied him up and buried him. Now he held up mountains rather than destroying them. Okay, these hero twins, I'm not finding them heroes at all. They just seem like mafia errand boys, you know? Like seriously, where is the hero part? Anyway, final match. One day, as the hero twins played ball, their noisy playing once again disturbed the lords of the underworld, who summoned Hunaphu and Xbalanque to another game in the underworld. The lords of the underworld won the first match, and the hero twins had to spend a night in Razor House, which was full of sharp stone knives that moved on their own accord. The hero twins survived by persuading the blades to stop moving. They survived the drafts and hail of the cold house, and the beasts of the jaguar house, and the flames of the firehouse. Their final trial was the bat house. Disaster struck when a bat swooped down and beheaded Hunahpu. Xbalanque made a new head for his brother using a squash or gourd, and the hero twins resumed play, using Hunahpu's head as the ball. Bruh. The hero twins distracted their opponents, reattached Hunahpu's head, and won the match. Furious of their defeat, the lords of the underworld plotted to kill Hunahpu and Xbalanque by burning them in a stone pit. The hero twins had been informed of this plan and willingly jumped into the flames. Their bones were ground down into powder and dumped into a river. After 5 days, they were reborn as catfish and then took human form. The hero twins wandered the underworld as anonymous vagabonds and won great fame as wizards. The lords of the underworld summoned them to perform, not knowing they were the hero twins. In their show, Xbalanque seemed to sacrifice Hunahpu, rolling his decapitated head along the floor, removing his heart, and then bringing him back to life. When Hun Kame and Wukub Kame demanded the trick to be done on them, Xbalanque and Hunahpu promptly sacrificed them, revealing their true identity as the hero twins. They refused to resurrect their victims. From then on, they declared the underworld to be no more human. There would be no more human sacrifice to the lords of underworld. The hero twins then ascended into the heavens. Xbalanque became the sun and Hunahpu the moon. This brought the cosmos into a present order. Okay. I don't know if I get it, I guess, but right. So I think this is related to the sacrifice that was obviously very much present in Aztec, Maya, and all the other American or Central South American cultures. Actually, I don't know that. I mean, it is shown that most of them did perform the sacrifices, human sacrifices, I mean. And again, like playing with the head as a football. So, yeah. Okay. I mean, I understand now a little bit where the hero terminology comes from. If they really won this battle against the lords of the underworld, which were the ones who, I don't know, demanded the human sacrifice to be made. So I understand a little bit why they would be called heroes, right? But on the other hand, like, because we obviously know that the gods of the underworld did not say directly, hey, why don't you make us a sacrifice? And we want the sacrifice to happen on, I don't know, like a periodic, in the periodic frequency, right? I don't know, on the monthly basis. We know they did not say it, right? If they did, then okay. But it did come from people, right? So it was the people who were doing it. I don't know why I'm going that much into that. It just was, for me, this story was a bit difficult to digest, and it's so like I don't know, kind of grotesque, right? I hope that, you know, YouTube gods will forgive me for all this mayhem But again, it's mythology, it's not me, right? There's a section here that says interpreting the hero twins. Some scholars have challenged the interpretation of Hunahpu becoming the moon. This is because the Maya generally view the moon as feminine. As such, it is suggested that Hunahpu actually became Venus, the morning star. Another tradition sees the hero twins as representing different phases of the sun, Hunahpu symbolizing the day and Xbalanque the night. There is even a theory that proposes that Hunahpu only represents the full moon and that his mother, Xquik, accounts for its other phases. Other interpretations paint the myth as an exploration of the possibility of rebirth through the rite of sacrifice. Many of those uncertainties stem from the Popol Vuh itself. Even though it draws on an ancient myth, the original Mayan text was composed decades after the arrival of the Spanish, which may have led to inconsistencies in its content. Right. So it can also be a story that is related to the arrival of Spanish, right? So maybe Maya were performing sacrifices up until the Spanish arrived, and then these hero twins are the Spanish, some two commanders or two men that were in charge, right? And I don't know, they started forbidding Maya culture and traditions, and again, which included sacrifices. So that could be it as well, right? I'm not sure if the next chapter is already for Aztec and the Maya section is over, but the title is So Then the Sun Went into the Sky, the Legend of the Five Suns. And I was right, this is Aztec already. In Aztec mythology, the present world was not the first to exist. It was preceded by 4 others. Each world began with the creation of a new sun and ended with its destruction. Our world, therefore, is the 5th sun. Before the creation, there was Omteotl, who resided on the highest level of heaven. The deity, whose name means dual cosmic energy, was both male and female. Ometeotl gave birth to the first generation of gods, Tezcatlipoca, Quetzalcoatl, Xipetotec, and Huitzilopochtli. Seriously. These 4 gods created all the other deities, then made the world and its flora and fauna. To give light to this world, Tezcatlipoca, smoking mirror, was chosen to be the first sun. At this time, a primitive race of giants who subsisted only on roots and acorns peopled the earth. The relationship between Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, and Tezcatlipoca became the driving force of creation. The 2 gods had markedly different characteristics. Quetzalcoatl was associated with harmony, balance, and learning. Tezcatlipoca was a force of destruction, conflict, and change. Yet Quetzalcoatl, jealous of Tezcatlipoca, had been chosen to be the first sun, knocked him down from the heavens into the sea. Tezcatlipoca rose from the water in the form of a giant jaguar. In his fury, he ordered the jaguars of the world to devour the race of giants. The earth was plunged into darkness, and after 676 years, the age of the first sun was over. Another race of people was created. Quetzalcoatl became the second sun. This world lasted only 364 years. Tezcatlipoca ended it by avenging his earlier slight, striking down Quetzalcoatl and creating a great hurricane that swept all the people away. Drought and floods. As Quetzalcoatl and Tezcatlipoca had selfishly brought disorder to creation through their rivalry, the other gods decided that someone else should have the honor of being the new sun. The third sun was the rain god, Tlaloc. He was married to, Xochiquetzal, goddess of beauty. Their union ended when Tezcatlipoca kidnapped and seduced Xochiquetzal. Mourning his beloved wife, the grief-stricken god refused to send down rain to nourish the earth, and the world became parched. The people continuously besieged him to end the drought, but to no avail. Tired of their appeals, Tlaloc instead sent down torrents of fire that turned the world into ash. The third sun was the shortest lived of all, existing only for 312 years. When Tlaloc remarried, taking, I cannot with these names, Chalchiuhtlicue, the goddess of streams and still waters, as his wife, Quetzalcoatl allied himself with her, and she became the fourth sun. Tezcatlipoca, however, again helped to bring an end to this world. He told, I'm not reading that again, the girl who became the fourth sun, she did not sincerely love the people of this fourth world, but was only benevolent because she wanted their praise. The girl, who was the fourth sun, cried so hard that her tears created a great deluge that flooded the world and lasted for 52 years. All but 2 people were turned to fish. The couple who survived were called Tata and Nene. They floated on the hollow log and subsided on just a single ear of maize each, which was supplied by Tezcatlipoca on the condition that they ate nothing else. As the flood waters subsided, Tata and Nene caught a fish and roasted it, defying Tezcatlipoca's instructions. When the god found out, he turned them into dogs. The fourth sun then ended and had lasted 676 years. So we have the 5 suns. The 5 suns that were first Tezcatlipoca, which was a god, and it lasted for 676 years, the age of first sun. Sun as in the star, sun. Second sun was Quetzalcoatl, and it lasted with him as the sun for 364 years. Tlaloc was the third sun, and his sun lasted for 312 years. And then our precious girl, whose name is very complicated. Okay, I'll try to read it again. Chalchiuhtlicue was the fourth sun, and her sun lasted for 676 years. Interesting. These divisions are very similar in between themselves. Anyway, and the fifth sun, is Tonatiuh, which is a new name. We'll probably read about it in a bit, but this is Aztec era. And the Aztec Empire. The Aztecs arrived in central Mexico from the north around 1250 CE and settled in marshy swampland. According to legend, they chose the site of their capital, an island in Lake Texcoco, where Mexico City now stands, after seeing an eagle eating a snake on a cactus, which is still on the flag of Mexico. They founded the city in 1325 and named it Tenochtitlan, place of the cactus fruit. To protect themselves, Aztec rulers made marriage alliances with other city-states. Acamapichtli, the product of one such union, founded the Aztec imperial dynasty in 1376. In 1428, the emperor Itzcoatl allied with two other city-states in the Aztec Triple Alliance and led the conquest of other neighboring city-states. Tenochtitlan became the capital of the vast Aztec Empire and was one of the world's largest cities when the Spanish conquistadors arrived in 1519. However, the Aztecs could not withstand European weapons and the diseases the Spanish brought, and the empire was overthrown in 1521. Yes, that is true. Unfortunately, that is true. If only had the Spanish and Portuguese and all of the other colonial powers at the time stay put, right? Anyway, let's continue. United against the enemy. Realizing now that their disputes had caused only destruction, Quetzalcoatl and Tezcatlipoca began to work together. A vicious sea monster called Teotihuacan had taken up residence in the oceans. Its body was covered with multiple mouths to satisfy its relentless appetite. To defeat this formidable foe, Quetzalcoatl and Tezcatlipoca took the form of serpents, and Tezcatlipoca used part of his body as bait to try to catch Tlaltecuhtli. When the monster surfaced, Quetzalcoatl and Tezcatlipoca seized it and ripped it in two. Half was thrown upward to create the sky and stars. The other half floated in the ocean and became the earth. In the fight, Tezcatlipoca lost his right foot. He is often depicted with a piece of obsidian in its place. Taking the earthly body of Tlaltecuhtli, still living even after its violent division, Xipetotec and Huitzilopochtli transformed it into elements that could sustain human beings in the future. The monster's hair became trees and grasses, its skin had turned into plants, and nose into hills and valleys, its eyes and sockets into wells and caves, and its shoulders into mountains. Tlaltecuhtli's voraciousness still remained, and he demanded human blood as the form of sacrifice. Recreating humans. Quetzalcoatl decided to journey to the underworld to gather the bones of previous generations of humans and to create a new race to repopulate the earth. First, he had to seek permission from Mictlantecuhtli, the lord of the underworld. When Quetzalcoatl requested the bones, Mictlantecutli said he would hand them over if Quetzalcoatl walked around him 4 times while blowing a conch shell trumpet. It was a trick. The conch Quetzalcoatl was given had no holes to blow through. Undeterred, the god accomplished the task by using worms to eat holes in the side of the shell and placing bees inside to make it hum. Quetzalcoatl is often depicted with a conch shell on his chest. Intense. This is a whole other level of intense while comparing these, for instance, with Greek or Egyptian myths, right? A whole other level of intense. I don't know which one is worse, but seriously. Anyway, his plot foiled. Mictlantecutli handed over the bones, but then sent servants ahead of Quetzalcoatl to dig a hole to trap him. On his way back to Earth with the bones, the god stumbled into the pit. He clambered out, but in the fall the bones broke into pieces. Quetzalcoatl sought the help of the fertility goddess Teotihuacan, who ground down the bones and poured the dust into her cauldron. The gods then gathered round and pierced their bodies, letting their blood flow into the bone meal. From this mixture they created the present race of humans, whose first woman and man were called Oxomoco and Sipactonal. Cute names. Like, seriously, who in their sane mind said that this was the easy thing to pronounce? I mean, don't take me wrong, okay? It's not like I'm saying that the languages are easier today, but like, I speak a few languages with different roots, like coming from, different places in the world, and I never in my entire life had such a difficulty to read and like my brain trying to place the pronunciation. Seriously. Anyway, feeding the new world. The newly created human race needed food. Quetzalcoatl spotted a red ant carrying a maize kernel. He followed it until it disappeared into a crack in the mountain. Mount Popocatépetl. Popocatépetl, the mountain of sustenance. Quetzalcoatl was so curious about what lay within that he transformed himself into a black ant and crawled through the narrow opening. There he found a chamber filled with seeds and grains. It was clear to Quetzalcoatl that this mountain had the potential to feed humans if they could only get inside it. The god tried to lift it with ropes but was unable to break it open. He asked Oxomoco and Sipactonal, who had the ability to divine the future, what to do. They told him that Nanahuatzin, a humble and sickly god whose name meant full of sores, was destined to help him. Nanahuatzin was duly called forth to the food mount. There, with the help of rain and lightning gods, he split it open. The contents were scattered across the world, providing nourishment for the human race. The quest for happiness. The gods were happy that the humans had food, which gave them the strength to work, but Quetzalcoatl noticed that their lives were joyless. He decided that humans needed something that would bring them excitement and happiness and make them dance and sing. He went on a journey across the heavens to find a solution and met a beautiful goddess called Maya. They fell madly in love. To show their deep affection for each other, they came down to earth and transformed themselves into a single tree, each becoming one of its two branches. Maya Huel's grandmother was one of the Mime, a nocturnal group of skeletal fertility goddesses. Furious that her granddaughter had run off with Quetzalcoatl, the goddess descended with the other Mime from their celestial home to earth to find Maya Huel. When they discovered the tree, they swept down on it and split it asunder. What? Split it asunder. Asunder? The Tsitsi Mime fell on Maya Huel, tearing her apart. Quetzalcoatl, who survived the attack, was heartbroken. He gathered together Maya Huel's scattered remains and buried them, weeping on the ground. From this grief sprang forth the Magaway plan, the source of joyous drink Quetzalcoatl had set out to find. Its sap could be used to make pulque, a thick milk-colored alcoholic drink. Of course, because what is happiness if not alcohol? Why not chocolate? The Aztec and other Mesoamerican people consider pulque to be a sacred beverage, and it was drunk ritually during sacred ceremonies. And here we have a section especially dedicated to sacrifice. Blood and sacrifice. Sacrifice was the central feature of Aztec religion, as it was how men repaid the gods for their actions. The letting of blood was an important act that Aztec priests often carried out on themselves. They drew blood by stabbing themselves with thorns of stingray spines in the cheeks, arms, legs, and even penises. The Aztec also practiced human sacrifice in order to appease the gods, both of their own people and enemy prisoners of war. The most common method of sacrifice was to pull out the victim's heart. The process was carried out on an altar at the top of a temple, where the victim was held down by 4 men while a specifically trained priest plunged a flint knife into the ribs, allowing the heart to be extracted. In each 18-month cycle, Aztec priests would sacrifice one person in this manner each month, killing thousands of people each year. The Aztecs also sacrificed people through gladiatorial combat, drowning, decapitation, burning, and burying alive. Oh my gosh. So most sacrificed people were women and children, as well as conquered warriors were among the victims sacrificed by Aztec to appropriate the gods. Didn't I say that this was a whole new level of intense? My gosh. The 5th sun. The world was still in darkness. A council of gods gathered in the city of Teotihuacan to determine who would become the 5th sun and provide light for the humanity. Whomever was chosen would have to sacrifice themselves by jumping into a huge fire from a high platform constructed above it. The first contender was the haughty and rich god Teotihuacan, a god of Tlaloc and a son of Tlaloc and not her again. Teotihuacan. So she was the fourth son. The poor and sickly Nana Huatzin also volunteered for the honor, albeit reluctantly. Reluctantly. Oh my gosh, I cannot. All these names are seriously messing up my brain. Before the gods chose, the two contenders had to fast and purify themselves by ritually shedding blood. Oh my gosh. Teotihuacan ostentatiously burned costly incense. When the time came to let his own blood, he lay down on feathers instead of the customary branches of the fir tree and pulled jade spines from a gold bowl of brick and prick his skin. In contrast, Nana Huatzin used the thorns of a maguey tree, plant to draw out his blood. And because he could not afford incense, he burned scabs from his own body. Oh my gosh. It's just, it is intense, but it's also kind of gruesome and kind of disgusting as well. Anyway, the other gods built up the fire as Nana Huatzin and Teotihuacan made their preparations. After 4 days of rituals, the decisive moment arrived. First to prove himself was Teotihuacan. The arrogant god mounted the platform, but gripped by fear, could not bring himself to leap into the flames. Nana Huatzin, however, showed no hesitation. He jumped off the platform and plunged into the fire and was incinerated. Shamed, Teotihuacan quickly followed suit. The flames died down. Suddenly, Nana Huatzin burst into the skies and became the fifth sun, which brought light to the world again. His new name was Tonatiuh. Soon afterwards, Teotihuacan also soared into the skies. There were now 2 suns at the same time. This was not what the gods had envisioned. The cowardice of Teotihuacan had shown that he was not worthy of being the new sun. Papazdag, the god of sacred drink pulque, threw a rabbit at Teotihuacan's face. It dimmed his light, ensuring he would never shine as brightly as the sun. He became madly the moon, which still bears the imprint of the rabbit. What? Let me think. Let me imagine the moon. Okay, I may put the moon right here. Just, I don't know, maybe I'll try to rotate it to see if it really looks like a rabbit. Sacrifice of the gods. Tonatiuh, the 5th sun, hung motionless in the sky for 4 days. The gods begged him to move, but he refused to do so until he had received a blood sacrifice. Oh my gosh. At this, oh my gosh, this is the longest name ever. Tlahuizcalpan Tecuhtli. Nailed it. God of the planet Venus grew angry and launched a dart at the sun using an atlatl, an Aztec tool that increased the velocity of projectiles. The dart missed. Tonatiuh threw a dart back at oh my gosh, the person who threw the dart, and it pierced his head, turning him into a god, Itztla, Ko, Li, oh my god, okay, I give up, I give up, who spread frost with the dawn. The gods realized they had to make an offering to persuade Tonatiuh to move. Numerous gods offered themselves to Quetzalcoatl, and he removed their hearts with a sacred knife. Their blood ensured that the fifth sun moved through the heavens. The gods had sacrificed themselves to help mankind. The Aztec believed this sacrifice by the gods was the key to survival of the humanity. Aztec warriors had the responsibility to capture enemies to sacrifice to Tonatiuh. They thought that if they ceased to replicate the gods' blood offering, the world would end with a series of earthquakes. Only act of sacrifice could ensure that the fifth sun kept moving across the sky and the world continued to exist. There we go. I think this is the last chapter for Aztec. We only have a slightly smaller section here for Teotihuacan. The city of Teotihuacan was a place of pilgrimage for the Aztecs, who admired its magnificent ruins and thought it the cradle of civilization. Teotihuacan, the place where the gods are created, is the Aztec word for the city. Its original name is lost to us. Okay, the city lay 48 kilometers or 30 miles northeast of their capital, Tenochtitlan, and had been built between the 1st and the 7th century CE. At its peak in the mid-5th century, it was probably the largest city in pre-Columbian America. What? Why would people say things like that? Why would you refer, like, seriously, just mention the date. We can understand. We know. We know when the whole Columbus and the conquistadors happened. We know, okay? So its major thoroughfare, the Avenue of the Dead, was flanked with civic buildings, temples, and tombs. The city's most impressive feature was its immense Pyramid of the Sun, and there was also a slightly smaller Pyramid of the Moon. Both structures are mentioned in the fifth sun myth, as the hills raised by the gods were, before their ordeal, Tezcatl and Nanahuatzin purified themselves. At the heart of Teotihuacan is the citadel, a large courtyard where a third pyramid was built in 200 CE. When the great seven-tiered temple of Quetzalcoatl was completed, more than 200 people from outside the city were then sacrificed there, including 36 young warriors. And there we go. And that was Maya and Aztec mythology. Of course, we also have North American mythology, but I thought that it might be too long of a video if I included that as well, so we'll leave it for later. In any case, this was again, as mentioned before, a whole new level of intense. Kind of shocking at times, to be honest. I mean, obviously, it just goes back to the sacrifice, right? I already knew that a lot of sacrifices were involved with the American civilization, but obviously, this just, I don't know, confirms, clarifies, provides numbers and, I don't know, reasons why they were doing all the sacrifices. Anyway, I'm gonna stop saying sacrifice because anyway, so I hope that you enjoyed this intense mythology reading this time, and I will see you next time. Bye.